Welcome everyone. It's good to see you. Now, today we start a little bit of a different chapter. So far we have covered the various stages of meditation practice, from the first one until the fourth one, breathing meditation, including all the preparations. We have talked a little bit about the various tools that help you to go deeper into the practice. Actually, I call it the inner toolbox. So today we will start talking a little bit more about the hindrances. What is it that's in the way of actually going deeper? And we start with the 5 classic hindrances as they're listed. And the first one of those 5 is called kind of very often sense desire or sensuality. The word for it is kamachanda, which means something like being enchanted with the world of sense, the world of the senses. When you look at the way you spend your day and the way you think when you're by yourself, and you will find that most of your thoughts, they revolve around achieving pleasure in the world of senses and trying to get rid of pain that is experienced in the world of senses, right? So most of our thoughts are about this. I would probably even say that almost all of our thoughts are about this. They're about how to secure a maximum input of pleasure in the future that comes through the 5 senses, and how to make sure that all the pain from minor to major stays outside. In fact, everything we do in our life revolves around the senses. We build a house for what? To protect the body, right? Protect the body from the elements. We sleep on a comfortable mattress for what? For the sense of feeling. We listen to music for the sense of hearing, and you don't listen to music that you don't like, right? Chances are pretty low that either of you is listening to death metal music. Anyone listening to death metal music? Like as a hobby through the day? No? But most people I know actually aren't. It might be the case that you like it. So if you like it, then you listen to it because it gives you some pleasure. There's some pleasure coming through the ears. And then you might think of death metal music when you can listen to the next time, when you can then get into your car and you can turn on your playlist, etc., and have your daily dose of death metal. You might not like it, so every time you hear it, you try to go away from it. You try to turn down the volume. You try to get out of the car where there are people who are listening to that kind of music. Or you might want to listen to talks on meditation, maybe, so that you consider pleasant talk. Another thing is maybe hearing praise, somebody talking nicely about you. Or this is an example of pleasure coming through the ears. So many of us actually work on having a career or becoming successful because we like to listen to praise. We like to hear praise, and the way we receive praise is through the ears. Or maybe through the eyes, like an approving nod. You did well, or a thumbs up. That's a visual signal. That tells us, it gives us feedback. I'm doing well, I'm a good person. And we're looking for that, and we try to find ways of how to get these things. Pleasure through the eyes, the ears, the nose. We want to smell nice things. We want to get away from bad smells. We want to taste nice food. We don't want to taste bad tastes. We won't want to feel nice feelings. We want to get away from pain, right? We have that continuously playing out in our lives. And it's important to actually become aware of how pervasive this is, how occupied we are with those 5 senses. And that there is nothing that we can think of which lies beyond those 5 senses. So most of our thoughts are continuously about those 5 senses and how to make sure that we get the best out of them. So sensuality, this kind of hindrances, it's about the way we think or the way we are attached about sense objects and the way we act in the world trying to get those sense objects. How much effort goes into imagine it, the work we do every month, so you can get some money, so you can pay for the objects that are for the senses. It's everything in the world. You go into a shopping mall, it's all about the senses. Every single object there. The trash you find at the beach comes from people having enjoyed objects for the senses. Everything. The clothes we wear, they're for visual, so that people can see you a certain way and then maybe approve of it, giving you another signal which is for the senses. That's why this classic hindrance is listed as the very first one, because it's so pervasive. It's literally everything we know. You'd really have to think completely outside of the box to think of anything which goes beyond that. In fact, right now, let's do this little thought experiment. Can you think of anything which goes beyond the world of senses? So that means it shouldn't be visual, it shouldn't be auditory, it shouldn't have anything to do with smell or taste or feelings. Can you think of anything?
Intellect.
The intellect, okay. Give me an example of intellect.
Curiosity.
Okay. Wanting to learn. For example, learning about what? Math. So math would be an object of the intellect, yes? Okay. So let's count that in too. Let's count the intellect into the senses too. Usually we refer to not only the five senses but also the sixth one, which is actually the intellect. It's all the mental objects. So the mental objects can get us hooked too, such as reading books, maths, the sciences, or being right. Your political orientation can have us really consumed, right? So that's certainly another point that gets us fascinated. Classically, we list the five senses, but I think it's not a mistake at all to include the sixth one too. Anything that pertains to movement in the mind. So now let's get outside of that. Now it becomes really difficult. Take away mental objects as well. Now what have you left? Think of it gradually losing your senses. Your eyes, your ears, your nose, your tongue, your body, and then mental objects, objects of the intellect. What are you left with? It's really hard to imagine. In fact, we can't really imagine it. You can only experience that state. And you can only experience it in the absence of those senses. And that kind of experience comes with an enormous sense of bliss and happiness and joy, which is not on the level of feeling it with your body, which is something completely outside of that realm. So as the deeper you go into the meditation, the more you let go of the world of senses. For example, you close your eyes when you go into meditation. You let go of seeing. Then eventually you start losing your feeling of the soundscape around you. You stop hearing sounds around you. They become more and more distant, eventually fade away. I've been giving talks, for example, and there were people who were meditating during those talks who went pretty deep and then said, I didn't hear anything you said. That might also happen if you're reading a book and someone is talking with you and you're so lost in the book, you kind of hear them somewhere far away, but you don't understand what they say. So the same thing happens also when you go to sleep. you're actually giving up your senses, right? You forget that your body is in bed. The only sense that is left then is when you're dreaming, it is your dream body in the dream world, which is a mental construct. But you don't know in that moment, like, oh, my actual body is in bed, and the mountain that I'm climbing right now is actually not real. It's just in my mind. It's a mental object. We don't know that in this moment. But that would be an example of having let go of the 5 external senses. Just the sixth sense is still in motion. And you're experiencing through the sixth sense, the mental sense. Now when that is gone too, you're talking of deep meditation, if you're still awake. Otherwise we refer to it as deep sleep. If you really want to understand your mind at its most basic level, you have to let go of what disturbs or agitates the mind and makes it more coarse, which are the 6 senses. They vibrate the mind, they put it into motion. So we want to understand this kind of hindrance in a way that helps us to let go of it. Otherwise there's no point in understanding just something for purely intellectual pleasure. The point to understanding this first hindrance is so that you can be able to let go of it. And letting go of it only happens very gradually as you go deeper into meditation practice. Now for all of you, it's kind of a different experience. What kind of sense goes first? You might stop feeling your arms at first, then the sounds go away, then you stop feeling the rest of your body, these kind of things. Usually when you go into meditation, the first 2 senses that are going are the sense of smell and taste, because they're not used during this period. Unless they're very strong smells or very strong taste somehow suddenly coming up, then it might still be noticed. But these 2 are the first that go. Then the sense of seeing, of course, if you close your eyes. Some people, they meditate with open eyes. The sense of seeing goes equally if you're practicing with open eyes. If you go deep into the mind, eventually you stop seeing anything. The eyes just black out. You see nothing, even though they're wide open. You just simply stop noticing the environment. So there's a kind of a withdrawing of awareness to the inside. The way that this is often represented is as a house with 6 windows, is a room with 6 windows, and in that room there's this monkey. And the little monkey is busy jumping from window to window, looking outside, looking at what goes on outside, having goals and dreams pertaining to what it sees outside. Okay? So obviously this monkey is our attention, our awareness stretching out. And outside there's some wind going on. And at some point someone tells the monkey, what's in the room? I've heard there are some wall paintings in the room that you're staying in, and there's some secret hidden messages written on the walls, and you've never seen them. The monkey has never actually looked into the room. He's never seen it. So for the first time, and it's quite dark outside, he tries to light a candle and tries to have a look at the walls, but the light of the candle is flickering a lot, and it's immediately, it's blown out by the wind that goes on. So what should he do? He should close the windows, right? So slowly, the monkey withdraws his interest from the world of senses, and that's the way we let go of sense desire, like seeing the flaws of the world of sense. So you lose your interest in it. You're not constantly mentally occupied with things of the senses, things of the body, things of the world around you. You kind of have to lose your interest in it. That is quite difficult, and that's where a lot of the teachings of the major religions in the world, for example, are kind of turning off people. They say, no, why should I give up what I enjoy the most? So here's a reason, because there is deeper happiness within. but you would have to kind of give up a lower level of happiness so that you can see higher levels of happiness. As long as you're attached to that low level of happiness, you can't go higher. Does that make sense? If I'm climbing a ladder and I'm attached to that rung, I can't climb it. I love that rung, and everyone that tells me that that rung is not the only rung that's there. There are more rungs, and there's better view up there. I say I can't imagine that, therefore I just stick to my rung, and don't you dare taking away my rung. It's the same that happens to a lot of people who first get introduced to these ideas that sensuality might be not that fulfilling after all. There might be something that's a bit better than that. And since we can't imagine that and it's an unknown, we often reject it. We just plainly say, that doesn't really exist. Or we totally pervert the teachings and we say, well, what Jesus actually meant is that you should embrace the senses, or something like that. Or the Buddha actually taught that you should enjoy the cup of tea more deeply. That's what he meant by presence. But that's not what he meant. It's not about enjoying the world of senses more deeply. The Buddha doesn't point to getting caught up in the world of senses more deeply. He points beyond it. And since we can't really imagine that, we need a bit of faith. I'm not talking about just belief, but a bit of faith. The same kind of faith that you need to have when you have a stomach ache and you ask your best friend what kind of doctor he would recommend, and he says, well, go to this guy, he's really, really good. You need a bit of faith. You need to kind of trust your friend enough to say, okay, I'm going to try out that doctor. And once the doctor is able to help you, then the faith deepens. You're still not 100% sure if that doctor is fully qualified, but next time you go there, chances are likely that you will go again to that same guy because he helped you before. If he helps you again, the faith deepens even more. Eventually turns into a good relationship like this. Turns into trust. So you got to make a leap of faith. If you're attached to a particular Thai dish, let's say you like fried rice, and you like to go to that particular place where you eat fried rice every day, and you absolutely love it. And now I tell you, look, there's a better place down the road. When you're ready, I'm going to take you there and I'm going to show you. And you just can't believe it. You say, like, no, I love my fried rice. Are you implying that my fried rice place is not good enough? How dare you, you know? It might be like that. So they say, no, I'm not implying that. I just ask you maybe to have a go, to just try. Open your mind a little bit. See if there's more. And then maybe you come with me one day and you eat that fried rice, which is the best fried rice of the island of Phuket. And you fall in love with it. It's absolutely amazing. Now you don't have to let go of your previous fried rice. It's not like an act of renunciation, of asceticism. It's like, I have to give up my fried rice so I can find a happiness that's beyond. So you first find that happiness that's better, then giving up something lower is easy, like climbing the ladder. You only let go of the lower rung if you have a higher rung, and you're stable on it. Otherwise, letting go of your rungs just makes you crash down. Same with sensuality. You gradually let go and you gradually discover that it's actually quite nice when the eyes stop working, when the ears stop working, when you stop feeling the body. Wow, that's actually quite nice. And so gradually you learn to trust that state beyond the body more and more. It's not that you suddenly have to let go of all the senses to explore that. You explore it gradually, slowly. And each time when you explore it, and you notice when you're forgetting the body more and more, it's actually very, very nice. And then at the same time you notice the downfall, the flaws of the senses and the body. And that is not a theoretical construct or a belief system or an ideology that you're adhering to then. It is direct experience. You know yourself beyond the body. Therefore you can make a statement such as, the body is stressful. Making such a statement without having an experience of something other than the body or the world pertaining to the senses of the body, then that statement is just some sort of ideology, just a view, an opinion. It's not really worth much. The deeper you have an insight into yourself beyond the senses, beyond the interference of sight, sound, smell, etc., the deeper your understanding grows that the body is actually stressful. The deeper your conviction that yes, it is better when the doors are shut, when the windows are shut. There's valuable information on the inside. Now, what many people come up with when they hear such a thing is that, well, I cannot spend the rest of my life with the windows shut. No one says that. I'm not saying that you, from now on, have to constantly shut your senses and just ignore the world. That would be a big mistake. It would stop all your growth immediately. But occasionally, that's that thing. It's not about 24/7. It's about occasionally shutting the windows so you're not constantly exposed to the wind of the outside world. And it's not constantly disturbed. So you can find times of rest, true rest, profound rest. That then gives rise to inspired thought. And so you can emerge from those times of rest having a clear mind and doing things of your life more efficiently, in better ways. But that's not the reason why we meditate. The reason why we meditate is so that we can go deeper into the mysteries of the mind and understand how we actually create suffering for ourselves unnecessarily and how to let go of it for good. Not just to be kind of more efficient in your office. Some people think that meditation is just making me more efficient at the office. I can make more money if I'm a good meditator. I can work many more hours. That's not what meditation is for. Meditation is for self-knowledge and release. So you can get to know yourself and you can stop putting suffering into this world through yourself. Because that's one thing, right? All of us, we carry our bags, we carry our suffering around with us, and that is very often also our contribution to this world. We might be yelling at the world, like, stop this, stop that. But in reality, what the world would need most is people taking responsibility for their own suffering and letting that go. Let my own contribution be a better contribution. Otherwise we have, 7.5 billion walking problems. It's good if there's one less walking problem. And one more solution. That's also part of our responsibility when we meditate. To free the world from our stress. Not to be free from the world and the stress of the world, but also to free the world from our own suffering, our own misery, our own chaos that we carry around, and to offer something better. So sense desire is let go of gradually, slowly, and the way we let go of it is by stabilizing the mind. So the antidote to getting caught up with sense desire is a stable mind. It is a mind that doesn't move, a mind that just stays with one thing, like the breath, for example. as we do in our meditation here. Once the mind really stays with one thing consistently, you will feel that all the senses slowly shut down as you go deeper and deeper. And becomes more and more pleasant. And of course it is order in our daily lives, so that we're not constantly caught up with things that agitate the mind. So you want to help yourself to become more calm, so that you can optimize the way your mind works and make it work for you, not against you. So it makes sense to have every day to have some time where you're reorienting yourself, where you're priming the mind, taking care of yourself, looking after yourself. Otherwise it will be difficult. Let's say, for example, you want a calm mind on one side, on the other side you want as much stimulus as possible. It doesn't work that way. Just like you want to be healthy, but you also really, really like chips. And so you eat constantly 5 packs of chips every day. But then on the other hand, you want to be really fit and healthy. It's contradicting. It's difficult to establish good health if we do things that cause illness at the same time. Maybe the chips is not a good example. There's different examples in ways in which we are causing ourselves problems, even though we don't want them. So if our personality is kind of split like that, one person wants to go this way and the other person wants to go that way, we're misaligned. And if we're misaligned, we can't really achieve. It's going to be really difficult. So you want to align yourself to bring all the different personalities that exist within you into a harmonious process. That is also what focus is all about. That every cell of your being works harmoniously together. Your emotions, your mental states, your body, your activities, your life, everything works in unity towards something. That's pretty difficult to establish. I find it difficult, at least. I find it very difficult. So one of the most difficult things to establish balance between all my various selves and to make them work for me, not against me. But at the same time that I see it's a very difficult challenge, I also see that it's fun. It's something nice to spend this time. You know, I have this time in this life, I have this body, I'm born into this world. Why not? Why not grow? Why not achieve something that is worthwhile? I've recently heard this saying that it is a good idea to compare yourself to who you were yesterday. What happens if you do that? Like, instead of comparing yourself to other people, what happens if you compare yourself to who you were yesterday? What kind of things do you then think about? What does that do to your way of thinking? Who were you yesterday? Who are you today? Does that lead to different kind of thoughts? Would you start to decide differently what to do today? Or how to do it? How to approach yourself and others? What would be important then? All this helps with creating alignment, focus, calmness, and all these kind of qualities which then help you to actually go deeper into your meditation practice. And slowly get rid of those 5 hindrances and discover yourself on a deeper, more fulfilling level. So you have something worthwhile sharing. Okay? So that's all that comes to mind for today. Are there any questions?